What makes a good football league? Is it the quality of football, the fans, the history? Whatever the reason, the best leagues in the world have obviously earned the names for good reason. Inevitably, if you go down to the second, third or fourth tier of any country's domestic leagues, the quality of football decreases, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not entertaining. Around about 3 weeks ago, I made this video about the Bundesliga 2 and you guys seem to really enjoy it. So today we're going to shed some light on the German third league. And while it does have some similarities to the Bundesliga 2, it's definitely unique. It has its own quirks. For instance, SSV Ulm, who won the league this season, actually used to be in the Bundesliga. They played in the Bundesliga in the 1999-2000 season. Also, interestingly, there's teams in this league that even if they finished top of the league, couldn't actually get promoted. Anyway, more on that a little bit later in the video. But before we do, if you enjoy these types of videos or anything football related, I recommend you check out the rest of the videos on my channel. Of course, after you've watched this one. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy, so you don't miss any of the videos. Anyway, back to the video. Now, first of all, let's take a look at the league table. As I mentioned before, Ulm have already won the league, and surprisingly, there's only 8 points that separate 12th place with 4th place. So it's an incredibly tight league table.
There's actually 20 teams in the German third league, as opposed to 18 teams in the Bundesliga 2 and Bundesliga.
And to be honest, the first thing that kind of smacks me in the face is the fact that Borussia Dortmund are in the third tier of German football. Scrolling down and seeing that Freiburg's reserves are also in the third tier obviously means that this is Borussia Dortmund's reserve team. Honestly, I've always found that concept a little bit strange. It isn't, uncommon, considering the same thing is pretty present across Europe, for example in the Spanish leagues. In England, for the third and fourth tier teams, they have the Papa John's Trophy. In that competition, you're able to find first tier teams is under 21s teams. For instance, you could come up against Manchester United's under 21s, making for some pretty interesting concepts. Where in a third and fourth tier competition, you could potentially have basically 2 under 21 teams facing each other. To me, I just don't really like the idea of it. To be completely honest, I don't watch a massive amount of Bundesliga, and I'm sure they've got the reasons for having these teams in the lower tiers of football. However, it would kind of just make more sense for me if they had their own league, and the 2 teams that are in the Bundesliga 3, Borussia Dortmund reserves and Freiburg, are just replaced with 2 other teams from the regional leagues below the Bundesliga 3. I feel like that would be much better. Give 2 more teams a chance. I'm not saying what I'm saying is right. That's just my opinion, and that's probably maybe different to your opinion if you're from a different country, because it's just a little bit strange for me to see this, considering we don't have this sort of thing in England. But just focusing mainly on Borussia Dortmund's reserves rather than Freiburg for now, despite being the reserve team to one of the best teams in German football, they've not always had it easy. It's not always been plain sailing. In 2008, Borussia Dortmund 2 finished 13th in the regional Liga and failed to qualify for the newly created Bundesliga 3 by a 4-point margin. A year later, they managed to win the regional Liga West, 3 points ahead of FC Kaiserslautern, and secure promotion to the Bundesliga 3 under coach Theo Schneider. Finishing third from bottom in the 2009-2010 season, the team was relegated. In the summer of 2011, David Wagner took over as coach of Borussia Dortmund 2,
with a 5-3 win at Wuppertaler on the final day of the 2011-12 season. They gained promotion to the German third league once again. And even recently, we can see that Borussia Dortmund's reserves were mainly playing in the regional league for actually a good 6 seasons up until the 2020-21 season, when they gained promotion to their third league, and they've seemed to remain in there so far. Borussia Dortmund 2 plays their matches at the Stadion Rot Erd, sorry for butchering the pronunciation, as I always do, which has a capacity of just less than 10,000 for league matches. Now, what is interesting is there is actually their own dedicated supporters. Maybe supporters that don't necessarily support the first team, but support the reserves. Now, to me, that is just insanity. Not in a bad way, just in an interesting way. Supporting a team that isn't in the top tier of domestic football, however can't get promoted, must be pretty strange.
Anyway, let's move on. In my opinion, one of the best aspects that makes German football so good is the fans. Other countries around the world don't really live up to it. Now, when we took a look at the Bundesliga 2, it was evident that even when you drop down the tiers of German football, the fans don't go away. The attendances are insane, the atmosphere in the ground and the fans themselves are just ridiculously good.
Now let's see how the German third league matches up. Now, something you have to understand is this is the third tier of German football. This is the German third league.
Putting that into real terms, that is the equivalent of League One in England. Well, amazingly, we have 8 clubs that have over 10,000 as an average attendance. The pick of the bunch being Dynamo Dresden, with an average attendance of 28,000 in the 3rd tier of German football, which is insane. Something else that is really interesting is Bayern Munich's local rivals, 1860 Munich, actually having an average attendance of 15,000 fans per game. It makes sense, of course. Munich is quite a big city in Germany. Of course, a lot of people equals a lot of people potentially going to watch the match. But 3rd tier, 15,000. I mean, that is really impressive considering you're competing with the likes of Bayern Munich, one of the biggest teams in world football. Of course, towards the bottom, we see the average attendances of Borussia Dortmund and Freiburg's reserves between 2,500 and 3,500 average per match, which kind of makes sense considering they are the 2nd team. But considering this is the 3rd tier of German football, it is really impressive. But now we're going to home in on Dynamo Dresden. And no, maybe not for their footballing ability. You know, they're still, I'm sure, a good team. But more for the fans. But yeah, just take this in. This is the 3rd tier of football. It's 3rd tier of German football. I know I've said it so many times, but it's absolutely bouncing. It's just ridiculous. You will not find this anywhere else around the world. Okay, for perspective, this is an away match. It's just absolute madness. It is mental. Once again, just take a look. 3rd tier of German football. Crazy. Now, I know that in German football, the fans are pretty prone. They're pretty accustomed to the old fleurs and fireworks. But it's ridiculous. I mean, how cool would it be to go to one of these games? It would be ridiculous. Yeah. I don't know. It looks a bit dangerous, honestly, but that's 3rd tier once again. But it's not just one team running the show. The fans across the league are really good. So let's take a look at some more. Yeah, this is mental. Just picture this. You're going to watch a League One clash in England. Let's see, I don't know, Bolton against Wigan. Yeah, sure, you know, the fans might be singing and the atmosphere might be, you know, better than usual at a normal League One game. But I assure you, you're not going to get anywhere near this. You're not going to get close. This is just special. Now, let's take a look at the league table again. Now, there's something pretty interesting that both Ulm and Preußen Munster have in common. Once again, I'm sorry for butchering that. Yeah. And that's both teams were actually playing in the 4th tier of German football last season. Ulm, well, back-to-back promotions, they've already won the league. Munster 2 points clear of 3rd place, looking again for back-to-back promotions. How rare is it that 2 of the newly promoted teams go on to get promoted again? Now, another interesting team that we should probably take a look at is MSV Duisburg. They're currently on the brink of relegation from the 3rd league. The regional leagues look very imminent. However, way back when, they were a staple in the Bundesliga. They actually finished 2nd in the Bundesliga in the 1963-64 season, but of course, that was now a long time ago and a lot can change. They were relegated from the Bundesliga in the 1981-82 season and relegated again into the 3rd tier in the 1985-86 season. Between 1989 and around about 2000, they would become what is known as a yo-yo club. They would be promoted to the Bundesliga in the 1990-91 season, but be relegated the next season. They would be promoted back to the Bundesliga in the 1992-93 season, only to be relegated 2 years later. They'd find themselves back in the Bundesliga for 3 years between 1997 and 1999, but ultimately go back down to the 2nd Bundesliga. They'd be promoted once again in the 2004-2005 season, but be relegated straight away, only to go up the next season back to the Bundesliga and go down straight away again to the 2nd Bundesliga. Since then, they've not really reached those heights, and now on the brink of relegation to the 4th tier of German football. It just proves that in the same league season, you've got 2 teams that have just been promoted and look to be getting promoted again. At the same time, you've got a team that is a staple, used to be a staple in the Bundesliga, finished runners-up way back when, and not really been able to establish themselves at those heights ever since, on the brink of relegation to the 4th tier. It's really sad. This league honestly has it all. After all, 1860 Munich were a founding member of the Bundesliga. but find themselves in the 3rd division with a ridiculously good following. It's a very strange league, but it's actually really interesting and quite entertaining. I can't say I've watched a lot of the actual football, but even if the football isn't that great, and realistically it probably isn't considering it's the 3rd tier of German football, for entertainment value and the history, it's really cool.
And that is the 3rd tier of German football. But whatever it lacks in quality of football, it is definitely made up for with everything else.
And while I'm slating its quality of football, if you are a fan of a team who plays in the Bundesliga 3, or you've just watched a lot of Bundesliga 3 this season, then let me know. How good is the quality of football in comparison to Bundesliga 2 and Bundesliga? But we are coming to just about the end of today's video. Now, if you did enjoy this video, then maybe you'll enjoy my previous video where we took a look at how Jude Bellingham could be one of the best footballers in the world right now. You also probably will like this video when we took a look at the Bundesliga 2 and the insanity that it is. Anyway, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you do, and I'll see you next time.